All right, so why does the World Cup matter for women? Well, let me tell you what I think. I think it matters because it's a demonstration of the freedom of the women in the countries that are competing. I used to tell people that had no understanding of the level of women's soccer all over the world that you didn't have to have an appreciation for where the elite teams were. You could actually rank the teams in the world in women's soccer based on the freedom of the women in those countries. For example, when the game started being played internationally, the teams that were the best, honestly, were the Scandinavians. And the reason for that is because in Scandinavia, they have a huge respect for women. Women leaders are across their culture, and as a result, women's sports in their culture also rose to the top. Same thing for the United States. When we decided to jump into the women's game and women's athletics, obviously Title IX was a prime mover to get funding for women across the spectrum collegiately. But there was a commitment in the United States to set their women free. And again, so as a result, the United States all of a sudden rose to this world power in women's soccer. So I think it's a demonstration of the freedom of the women in all these separate countries. So much so that, again, I still think you can rank teams more or less based on the freedom of women within those cultures. So I think from that perspective, it has some value. But I'm not one of these people that really thinks that sport has overwhelming value. I mean, everyone likes to think that athletics builds character, but all of us have seen some extraordinary athletes without a lick of character. So I think that cliche is worn out. I think athletics exposes character. I think to some extent it can strengthen character, and I think it has done that for certainly women in the United States. One of my favorite Nike ads was about the empowerment of women that play sports. It went something like, "If you let me play sports, I will be more apt to leave an abusive husband. If you let me play sports, I will be less apt to get pregnant outside of marriage. If you let me play sports." It was a whole list of different things that would happen if women played sports. So I think the impact of this on our culture has been significant. And I also think it's a tremendous leadership platform for the evolution of our young women. So much so that in this country now, women are taking over at all levels. Right now they outnumber men in urban areas in terms of incomes. They're outnumbering men across the spectrum getting collegiate educations. And I genuinely feel that sports has had a very positive impact on these girls that were growing up that played sports, and certainly women that committed to it while they were in college. So why does it matter? Well, it matters because, again, it indicates the freedom of women within your culture. And if your teams aren't succeeding on a World Cup platform, my guess is if you look into the culture of these separate countries that aren't succeeding, you can see that the women are still oppressed, they're still basically coming from a sexist culture, and they still don't have the freedoms that the top women's soccer playing powers in the world do.